Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. I'm here with Tim Carroll, who I'm very excited to be talking to today because Tim was Race's trainer, coach. What's the correct word, trainer?
Trainer or coach. I like coach better. It sounds cooler.
He had 10 UFC fights and 10 boxing matches. Is that what?
Well, he wishes they're UFC fights, but 10 MMA fights.
Oh, sorry,
10 amateur boxing
That's
fights.
what I meant, yeah.
And then
but UFC, like, style fighting.
Yeah, and then he had 5 pro MMA and 5 pro boxing. So he had 10 amateur of each, and then 5 of each is a pro.
Yeah, he was a good wrestler.
Yeah.
He would put me in headlocks every day growing up. And then WWF. You a WWF guy?
No.
Oh, Tim. No. Well, we won't waste too much time with that then. But anyway, it's Race's birthday today, January 17th. And so I wanted to chat with Tim, who probably knows Race. I don't know if better than anyone, but like, you know a certain kind of Race better than anyone, maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear your stories and thoughts on him. And we'll get to know you, obviously, at the beginning. I think I'll ask you some would you rather questions in honor of Race to get to know you. And then we'll dive into it. But I'm going to start with Race's obituary. Sound good?
Real quick, I'm just going to over Tim's mic a little
bit. I'll try not to cry. Sorry, David. All right, Race Sawyer, age 37. Was born on January 17th, 1984 to Casey and Steve Sawyer of West Jordan, Utah. He was the third of 5 children and spent his childhood, youth, and early adult life in West Jordan until recently moving to St. George, Utah. He was unexpectedly caught in a dust storm and killed in a car accident on July 25th, 2021, along with his youngest son, Ryder, his sister-in-law, a niece, and a nephew. He is survived by his wife, Keisha, daughter, Faith, and son, Ran. Race was an amazing athlete, a loyal friend, and a high, fierce competitor. He attended West Jordan High School, where he was the 145-pound 5A state wrestling champion his senior year. Following his graduation, he served a full-time mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Tampa Bay, Florida. Upon returning from his mission, Race fell head over heels in love with Keisha and her daughter, Faith Bodine. And they were married in the Salt Lake City Temple on December 28th, 2005. Their family was soon blessed with their 2 sons, Ran and Ryder. Their beautiful family loved to play games including Would You Rather and Heads Up, as well as hosting Make Your Own Pizza Nights. As his kids got older, Race loved watching them pursue their passions and was intent on them becoming champions in whatever endeavors they pursued. His love for his children was equaled by that for his wife, and he lived to make sure that Keisha knew how beautiful she was every day and would do anything to make her happy. She was his very best friend and loyal companion. Race was always the life of the party and was famous for his rendition of Happy Birthday. Yeah, he would sing it so bad. It was awful. He loved to tease and had quite the knack for it. He put this talent to good use and was always able to provoke his family and friends while at the same time making them feel special, because as good as he was at teasing, he was twice as good at loving. Race lived his life with the motto, live wild. He loved to rock climb, skydive, and fight. He was an adventurer and dreamer who was passionate about life and his family. Race spent much of his adult life training as an MMA fighter and capped off his career with a fight at Madison Square Garden. His life will be forever cherished by those who knew him, and his legendary personality will continue to motivate us as we all strive to become champions. Sorry, Tim. You know, not used to guys crying, huh? You're training tough boxers all day.
They cry more than everybody. Sure, they really do.
All right. Well, welcome to the 1090 podcast. Happy birthday to Race. Tim, would you rather have your head be the size of a stop sign or a baseball?
I feel like stop sign probably.
A stop sign? Why? That was kind of quick.
Yeah, I don't know. My head's pretty big anyways, but it's a little bit bigger.
Boxing, though, think how good you'd be. They'd never hit you.
Yeah, but
if you have a head the size of a stop sign, you're going to bounce around.
It's close anyway, so
I wonder if they'd give you bigger gloves.
If you yeah.
Like, or may I don't know how that works. All right, you're going stop sign. Okay, would you rather $5 million in penny rolls? So, you know, like you have to roll these pennies for $1 or whatever. So they're in pennies, and you can't like buy a house and then change the pennies for cat. Like you have like
that's use the pennies.
They're pennies. There's no way around it. They're pennies, and if you want to spend them, you got to roll them and buy them and use them to buy things. But you have $5 million worth of pennies, or you have $1 million cash, check, XRP, whatever you want, however you want. What are you doing?
I'll take the pennies.
You're taking the pennies?
Yeah.
Tim, I don't think you're thinking this through.
$5 million. That'd be nice.
Yeah, but I guess like you could, because you're a blackjack player. You and Race would go play some blackjack. I mean, how many pennies would you have to roll to go? I don't know, Tim. I think that's the wrong
For $5
answer.
million, I don't know. I'd find a way. I'd be rolling them all day long. It'd be great.
All right. Maybe one more. Let's see. Okay, would you rather fight 50 ducks? No, sorry. Would you rather fight 50 grizzly bears the size of a duck or one duck the size of a grizzly bear?
One duck the size of a grizzly bear. What's a duck the size of a grizzly bear going to do?
Talons. They could fly, dude.
Yeah, but one compared to 50, I'd take the one.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be tough either way.
Yeah, but
if you choose the grizzly bears, you're just like find a golf club maybe, and you just Happy Gilmore. Like I don't know what you do. That's a lot of bears running around.
Yeah, it'd be rough.
Tim, how'd you get into boxing, dude?
I've always been interested in boxing. My oldest brother got me into it when I was a kid, and I've always wanted to do it. And then,
how many siblings you grew up with?
7. So I'm one of 8, and so.
And where are you at?
I'm in the middle. I'm the fourth one down.
Just like Race then.
Yeah, so it's fun. And like going through like high school age, I was the best athlete in my school by far. Like I was the best basketball player, best football player, and it kind of sucked because the teachers were like they would try to hook up with me. It sounds weird, but it's even it sounds weird, but it's even worse because I went to homeschool. So I was like, Mom and Dad, enough's enough.
I see why Race like trading with you. Oh man. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I did go to homeschool, so that was rough, and but my brothers still think they're better athletes, and that pisses me off still. But I went to homeschool, and my whole goal in my life was to be in the NBA. That's all I wanted, like my whole life. I would play basketball all day, every day, and then I didn't realize, coming out of homeschool would have been tough. And my dad's like, "You need a plan B." Like, you need a plan B. It didn't work out.
I did not peg you for an NBA wannabe over here. I was an NBA wannabe.
Yeah, it's a good dream to have.
There's just not a lot of 5'9" white guys in the NBA, is there?
No. Not a lot of. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah,
but I still like to play basketball.
So your brot's like, you guys just fighting each other, girl? Like, how?
I have an old 5-year-old one that's 5 years older than me, and he's the one that got me into martial arts and stuff, and we would spar all the time. And then I had one that's 3 years older and would spar, and then I had a little brother who was just a year younger, and he would always go ham with me every day. So it was a lot of fun. And then when I was 19, didn't make the NBA.
Didn't get drafted?
No, I was like, man. So I started boxing, and then I fell in love with that, and I've been involved in that ever since. So
Yeah.
been about 25 years. So
If like, how old are you now? 45?
yeah, almost 45.
Like if me and you stepped in the ring together, boxing match, like how many, and you're mad at me, like you're not taking it easy, like you're not happy with me. How long would I last, you think?
Well, if you're anything like Race, you probably last the whole time.
Oh, wow. I appreciate that answer, but no, I'm not.
Yeah, Race, man. That guy would take it licking and just keep coming forward every time. And he would, that's what, when I first met Race, he was like 31. He came to the gym and he was so humble about everything. He wasn't like, oh, I want to be in the UFC or anything, but he just started sparring a lot. He would spar anybody, didn't matter. And then me and him would spar, and he just kept going. And then he decided to start fighting. And he was the most fun guy to work with because everybody's so nervous before they fight and they're freaking out. They're back there, like you have to Dr. Phil them, like it's okay, everything's fine. And Race would sometimes sleep. He would fall asleep back there, and then like, oh, it's time to fight, and go out there and fight. So he took it. He took it seriously, but not. He didn't have an anxiety attack before each fight. So
31, that seems old to me.
yeah, it is.
When do most boxers or fighters come to you? What age?
Oh, I have a lot of guys that come in their 30s thinking, I got in fights in high school and they think they're tough.
I'm 0-4, or I'm 4-0 through high school. Yeah,
yeah, I get a lot of those, but very few guys actually end up fighting when they start in their 30s.
Well, we were talking about it a little bit. Like fighting's like one of the sports, and Ryan was talking about this too, that men think they can just do for some reason. Like if you watch baseball, we're like, yeah, I probably can't hit a fastball. But we watch boxing, yeah, like I'd knock him out. Like we just think we could do it. And like, no, like I think it might be one of the hardest sports, if not the hardest sport. I think hockey's up there and some other things, and the conditioning and the skill level is really high.
I personally think it's the hardest sport in the world because like you're getting in the face, you know what I mean? It's like, and nothing against team sports, but you get breaks and you get switch, but it's just you in there. Once the bell rings, it's just you in there, and trying to stay calm and stick to the game plan. It's so hard. And the conditioning, we all think we're tough until we're getting punched in the face, and then it's the most exhausting thing in the world. And so I think it's the hardest sport in the world. Nothing against MMA. I think MMA is close, but like in boxing, if you're in there fighting and you're losing, like me and you were fighting in boxing and you're kicking my butt, I'm going to tackle you or kick you for an MMA. But if we're just boxing, I got to find a way to beat you at that. And that's why I think it's harder because there's no way out. You just have to punch your way out, and that's tough.
What do you think separates like a great fighter from maybe a good or average fighter?
Like consistency, usually. Like a lot of guys are really, really good. They're just lazy and they don't really put in the time, or it's just being consistent and working really, really hard. And so some people are just naturally good, but you can't just be naturally good. You got to be naturally good with work ethic. Work ethic's most of it.
Did my brother Race, like when he came into your gym, was he like, I want to do a fight one day, or I just want to train, or like what would
he didn't really say much at first about fighting at all, and then all of a sudden he was like, he came up to me one day and said, "Oh, I want to start fighting." I was like, "Really?" And like it kind of took me by surprise and then I was like, "Okay, we got to start sparring a lot more because I make the guys spar at least 100 rounds before they can even think about fighting." And he would spar all the time. He would spar. He would just come to spar, and then I started taking him other places to spar other guys to see how we do. We went to this gym and, guys that fought and beat me in amateur boxing. I was like, Race, I'm like, this one's going to be a little different. These guys are tough. And so Race shows up with his dress pants on, changes really quick. They're like, do you want to warm up? And he's like, no, I don't want to warm up. He goes in there and puts a whooping on these guys. I was like, and it was so gangster. And then, but he would do that kind of stuff all the time. He would spar anybody and not warm up and it was really impressive to watch. And he wasn't the best fighter in the world, but he had more heart than most.
Yeah, when I do speaking events and I talk about Race, that's one of the things I try to tell him is like he wasn't the best fighter. Like even if he was fully healthy, he was brand new. He was just learning. But like I love that he would just fight anyone really and just wanted to learn and just to like embrace the sport completely, I think.
Yeah, he never ever turned down a fight, and that's what was cool. And they offered him some tough guys, and he's like, deal. I was like, let's go.
So like how does it like don't you have to keep picking up these fights, don't you have to win a little bit? Like how many fights did he take till he won one?
Well, his first MMA fight, he was fighting this guy that was really in shape and scary looking, and they matched him up. I forgot the blank on the guy's name, but he went out there and nobody was at the fights for him. It was just his wife and and me, and we go there and he he's fighting him really really hard. And then he all of a sudden he catches the dude, knocks the dude out, and it was one of the most epic videos ever. I think I sent it to you this morning.
Yeah, I was watching it before.
And it was so exciting. And then after that, he was like, he thought he was a knockout artist. He was like, I'll fight anybody. And it was probably the worst thing that happened to him.
Yeah, it's like when you gamble for the first time and you win a lot of money, and you're like, "This is how it's going to be every time." Every day. Like, no, the house wins actually.
And that's how he thought. He always thought he had a puncher's chance, and he kind of do. But he would fight. He ended up having 10 pro fights, and that was his only win.
His only win was his first one.
It was his first MMA fight. But if you look at the guys he fought, amazing. We could have went to and picked up some easy fights all over, and he could have a pretty decent record. Like most people, especially boxing, they fight 20 clowns and then they start getting paid. But he was just, he would fight anybody anytime and never would turn down a fight. And you can't. It's hard to turn it for me to say no to a guy like that when he's so willing to do it. And so I would be like, deal. And he, even when he was overmatched, he always put up a show. He always fought his butt off, and you got to respect that. Like a lot of guys just hide and they fight 4 or 5 times and they think they're cool, but and fight clowns. But he fought the best of the best every time. So
when because I went to Southern Utah to play college basketball right when Race started fighting. So like I hardly could make any fights and just couldn't really keep up with it because I was playing college basketball. But I made a couple fights. One fight was an MMA one in downtown Salt Lake, and then one was a boxing match in Windover. Do you remember that? Were you there for the Windover one?
I was there for all of them.
And it was just like, man, it was so great. It was like literally like once you cross the state line, that's where they put the boxing ring. And it was so hardcore. And it was just so race like WWF trampoline. And then he'd make WWF wrestling videos with his high school buddies, like suplexing each other onto cars and like making these videos. And then I remember he would do like WWF wrestling at these dive bars and like jumping off the top rope. And it was just, he would wrestle fight anywhere just because he loved it so much. And he didn't care about winning or losing. I think he saw the event itself, the fight itself, as winning or losing, and showing up and how I'm going to fight is how I'm going to win or lose, and the other guy is going to do his thing. But I don't know. I think Race was just really good at being in the moment and understanding where victory can be had for a guy like him starting so late in his career. And just hearing you talk about him, that's just kind of the Race I know, is just the underdog mentality. And that's something I always admired about him, was he'd always cheer for the little guy and wouldn't mind being the little guy.
He was a winner in my book because he fought everybody and anybody, and he's just sad, man. I get emotional thinking about him a lot. I've been thinking, for some reason, I can't stop thinking about him since you asked me to do this. And I think about him all the time. For some reason, he's there all the time. And like I've trained a lot of guys over the years, and he's just different. He's one of the only people that's never pissed me off. Everybody gets under my skin except for him. He was always kind, and he was never disrespectful to anybody. And I think he's a stud. He's my all-time favorite. So
Yeah, you spoke at his funeral, and he did such a good job. I think you told a story. There was this one story where he kissed you on the cheek or something, or is that?
he kissed me on the lips.
Or he kissed you on the lips? Can you share that with us real quick?
Well, it was just he likes to make people feel uncomfortable. So we're walking out, you know, it's that intense moment, you know, you're going out there, you putting the Vaseline on, and all he kisses me in the lips and runs in the cage. And it was weird because I had an erection. No, but I was
Did
like,
you say that at the funeral?
No, I didn't say the erection part. But then he just went out there and fought, and it was
that's
it
so
just
him.
caught me off guard. I was like, oh wow, but
no, Race is so good at using humor to like mellow people out, calm them down, like to help the situation. He's really good at that with the humor thing. So I tell the story of Race fighting at Madison Square Garden a lot because he didn't throw in the white towel and everything. But I do want to ask you like your take on that story, just because I'm sure you know a lot more than me. But you also mentioned this other fight that kind of I think we should tell before we do the Madison Square Garden one because I think it sets it up even better, and it's a story that I'm not familiar with. But maybe you want to take it from here about what I'm trying to talk about before I butcher it even more.
Yeah, he was fighting this. I'm gonna butcher the guy's name. He won the bronze medalist for Mexico. This dude's a killer, and I was supposed to fight him like 4 months prior to that for his first pro fight, and I was training my butt off every day, trying to fight this guy. I quit my job thinking this is going to be fun. I get to fight this guy, and then on the way to the airport, the promoter called me and said, the fight, they're not going to let you fight him because it's a TV fight, and the TV wants him to fight a black guy. And I was like, what? I was so disappointed, and so I didn't get to fight him, and I was super depressed. Like 4 months later, they called me up on like a Thursday. Fights are on, I think, Saturday, and they say, hey, do you want to fight Julian? Like when? And they're like, oh, Saturday. And I'm like, at what weight? And they're like, oh, well, I think it was like 155. And I was like, I'm like 175. I'm like, no, I don't think I can make that, but I got a guy that can. And so I called Race, and he was like, deal. And right out the gate. And
right out of the gate,
just didn't even hesitate. And it was in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. And he was so excited. He had like the suit that you wore. Like he bought a suit. He shows up, and we didn't see each other for a minute. And we're talking in the airport. We're so excited to go, and we're talking about how it's going to be. And then we missed the flight in Salt Lake City Airport, and we missed it. And then we were panicking, and we get it back, and then we go down there, and he I don't know. He goes out there and he's fighting this dude, and Race is pretty awkward. He's not a traditional boxer. He doesn't have that much experience compared to most. I mean, this other guy's been fighting his whole entire life, and to be in the Olympics, you got to be a badass.
Yeah, I mean, Race is more of a wrestler.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not really like a boxer. Yeah,
but he's so unorthodox, and he's fighting this dude, and he's doing okay first 30 seconds probably. Then he starts getting drilled, just boom, boom, boom. And people are looking at me, yelling at me to throw in the towel, and I didn't. And he comes out, and I was like, Race, stop circling to his right. I'm like, he's hitting you with that right hand every single time. I'm going to go to his left. He's like, got you. He goes out there and immediately circles to the dude's right. The dude's hitting him, boom, boom. Everybody's yelling at me. They had a lady next to me. She's like, don't yell. And I felt like I didn't want to, but he is out on his feet pretty much. I throw the towel in. The ref jumps in, grabs him, and ends the fight. And we go in the locker room after the fight, and he's depressed. And I said, hey, dude, what do you think of the stoppage? And he goes, man, I wish the ref didn't stop it. And I was like, oh, shit. He doesn't know that I stopped it. He's like, yeah, I wanted to go the distance. And I was like, I said, do you want the good news or the bad news? And he's like about to cry. He's like, what? I said, the good news is I saved a bunch of money on my car insurance by switching to Geico.
No, you did not.
And he's like, and I said, the bad news is I threw in the towel. And he's like, why would you? And he was so pissed, so pissed. I said, dude, once you see this fight, I said, I want your family's going to call and apologize. You're going to apologize because I saved your life. I was like, you weren't going to make the through that round, let alone a couple more rounds after that. And we've never seen the fight. The fight's been wiped from boxing. If you guys can find it, I'll be shocked because I've looked for it for years. We've debated on it for years. If I threw it in too early or not, because I'm so anti-throw. I don't want to throw the towel on anybody.
Yeah.
But I love the guy, and I see him in there getting murdered. I mean, he's just so tough. He's too tough for his own good. And so I threw the towel in. I felt super bad, but kind of good at the same time. And then we just sit down after the fights, and we're watching all these other fights, and we're watching these guys get murdered. He's like, look, their coach at least has faith. And then the guy gets knocked down. I'm like, see, and it happened like 3 fights in a row where they should have probably stopped it, and then their guy gets flatlined. But that, by him having the balls to take a fight like that, opened up the window to fight in Madison Square Garden, and that's how he ended up fighting that guy.
I think like how like he was legit crying, like because I think he would, because one thing about my brother Race is like he held himself to such a high standard, and not giving up is high on his list. So I could imagine like him being very, not losing the fight, but just the, and I would imagine that him being very upset. Like, was your relationship fine after that, or did it take a little bit? Or
it was, God, I just wish we could have seen the fight. I felt like it would have helped.
No, I thank you for doing it. Like, I'm not like, but I just know my brother, like that would break him. Just
it was rough, but then he knew I had his best interest in mind, and being a coach,
that's got to be one of the hardest parts.
Yeah,
it's being sucks. A trainer, whether or not want to throw that towel. Is that one of the hardest things?
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the hardest moments as a coach for me, because like I love all the guys that I train. I really care about all of them, and nobody wants the towel thrown in on them. I had the towel thrown on me once. I'm still mad about it. So I'm sure he's probably still mad about it. But like I had to. I felt like I had to, because nothing good was about it. It's not like he would like.
No, I like it because it makes the Madison Square Garden story make more sense to me, because like it's crazy that he went the distance in that fight, but now that makes, because I'm picturing you holding this towel, but now okay, let's just have you tell the Madison Square Garden fight, because I'm sure I didn't even go to it. I just am going off of what I've been told, but I'd love to hear your perspective now that we know. Where was that fight where you threw the towel, and that was at
the Alamo Dome in San Antonio.
And you said that that was like a fun event too. Like,
I felt like it was a better event than the Madison Square Garden one. Just the whole like lights and stuff. It was so cool. It was so cool. The coolest event ever. The Madison Square Garden one was just so cool because Madison Square Garden.
And then when I tell the Madison Square Garden story, like he had a fractured hand, right? Like he wasn't training. What fight did he do that he fractured that hand?
I think he might have done it in sparring, because he was sparring a lot, and he would try to fight through injuries and stuff, and then, but same, he was willing to take any fight, and he's the guy, like if this, because I was getting calls a lot for me to fight, and then they would always say, hey, you got anybody else and stuff, and so I was in with one of these promoters from New York, and so I said, yeah, I got a guy, the same thing, and I called Race, and another short notice fight again, and he had to cut like 12 pounds, and then and we went down there, and he did the same thing, and it was so cool, like my wife at the time, he had her work the corner. Like he was good friends with us, and she boxed and fought too, and me and her worked his corner, and Keisha came, and I had my little girl. She was like 1 year old, and his daughter stayed in the hotel and watched our daughter while he fought in Madison Square Garden. And I just thought it was so cool of him, make it a family event for us. So we all got to go to Madison Square Garden and hang out in New York for a few days, and then he went out there and fought his ass off. And he was like, before the fight, like, don't throw in the towel, don't throw in the towel, don't throw in the towel. I'm like, dude, I'm not, I'm not. And
Man, I feel bad for you, man, because I didn't really know about the other fight and like the white towel situation. So you were probably just like, I cannot throw in this towel, man.
Yeah. Oh man, and it was hard not to, because he was getting hit. I mean, this kid was such a high level fighter, but Race, man, he was hitting him too. It wasn't as bad as the San Antonio one. I mean, he was somewhat competitive, and I believe he had a puncher's chance the whole time, because he really did, because he wasn't backing up and scared. He kept coming forward. He kept trying, and people are yelling at me to throw in the towel and think I'm a piece of shit for not. Like, you don't even know what the fuck I'm dealing with. You know what I mean?
You were there in San Antonio.
Yeah, I couldn't, and I
couldn't. No way.
And so, but then, after the fight, he had to go to the hospital, and then he's like, no, you stay here, because I wanted to watch. There's a ton of fights, and there was like a world championship fight going on that night too. So he ended up going to the hospital, and my wife went to the ex-wife now, but she went to the hotel, and I just stayed and watched the fights by myself, and it would suck to be there by yourself watching fights. It's not as fun by yourself, and then he came back, he was beat up, but then he stayed a few extra days and down there and had a blast. So
the referee was really impressed with Race too. He wrote him that, I don't know if it was an email or a letter or whatever, but he left him that really cool note. I think that's pretty cool what he had to say about Race. And it's kind of the same thing you've been saying throughout the podcast, just about the way Race carried himself and how respectful he was and how tough he was and carried his head high. When I think of this story, I just think of like stepping in round one. Like, that's got to be so terrifying. Yeah. Like, I just can't even imagine it. Like, and it's so inspiring to me. Like, how is he able to do that? And like, he's not getting money. Yeah. He's not, like, what is he doing? Why is he doing this?
Yeah, he spent more money on a suit than he made for those fights. Like, I don't know, he just was fearless about it. And he wasn't, the experience was more important than the win or the loss. So many people are, me included, we're all worried about, I gotta win. But he always thought he could win. But the experiences I had with him were awesome. And he ended up working the corner in my last couple fights too. And it just being with him. For my last fight, we went to New York, not in Madison Square Garden, but it was some Indian reservation at a casino. And I spent the week with him. It was probably the best, funnest week of my life. We just hung out, worked out a little bit, and then went and fought and gambled the day of the fight. And then right after, it was just fun. it was just so fun. And, I don't know. I think about him a lot. I miss that guy every day, it seems like. And
yeah, Keisha was showing me all the Marco Polos you guys would send back and forth. And it was just like, wow, you guys were best buddies. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know how close you were until she showed me some of these videos. And they weren't just like short clips. Like, Race would really like tell you what was going on. Like, some of them were like 5-minute clips, and he's kind of like opening up about things he's stressed about. And it was like, wow, like, didn't realize how close you were to Race, which is another reason why I wanted to have you on today.
Yeah, it seemed like we were, like, when he lived in West Jordan or whatever, we were close. But when he moved to St. George, it seemed like we got closer, because we started talking daily, like Marco Polo, almost every single day, multiple times a day. And it seemed like we got a lot closer after that. And then he would come, visit and come spar. And I was trying to get in a bare knuckle fight, and then he was like, "Give me a bare knuckle fight." And I was like, Jesus, this guy just wants to fight at anything. And I don't know, we got a lot closer after that. And I don't know, Marco Polo's was big in our relationship, actually.
We got to talk about Race's blackjack a little bit, because He learned how to count cards. Like, he would go to like a camp to learn how to count cards.
Yeah.
And he got good. Like, he would send me and Sage these videos of him getting booted from casinos because he'd be counting cards and they'd kick him out, and he's just filming them. Like, this isn't good customer service, Gary. You can't kick me out. And they're just kicking him out. And me and Sage are like, dude, if they ask your ID, like, you gotta show them your ID. Anyway, and then Race would you would ask Sage to like invest in his blackjack. He had like a blackjack company, and he's like, Sage, invest in my blackjack, and I'll give you back percentage of my winning. Like, he had a program. He was dialed into this thing. I'm like, Race, like, this is crazy. But he would. I only gambled with him a couple times, but it was like borderline enjoyable with him because he'd literally be counting.
Yeah.
And I'm like trying to talk, and he's just like counting cards. I'm like, Race, this sucks. I'd rather lose money and talk. Anyway, what are some of your experiences with Race around the blackjack table?
No, we would just go, and I have my own way of playing. It's hard to count cards, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not counting cards.
Yeah, it's
like,
tough.
I pick a certain amount of money. I'm good with losing, and I go and I have a good time. I'm not counting cards. I'm with you.
Yeah, but I most of the time do pretty good, and like I went to Vegas one time and won $38,000 playing blackjack in one night. It was the best night ever. And Wary's wasn't there, but and so we would always debate on whose system's better and stuff.
So what are the difference of these systems? What are we talking about?
Mine was everybody doubles when they win. Mine was double when you lose. And like, so, but I started doing it online as practice, and I won $180,000 in 6 weeks in my pajamas on the computer because I would.
Is this real money?
Real money. I cashed out and stuff. They shut the system down because I would just double when I lose, but it started at a low amount, so I would go $4, and then I'll just try to win my 4 back. They'll go 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, and then hopefully by then time you win, and then you get all your money back. And then every time you win, $4, you just ride $4. You don't double when you win. Like, everybody gets excited when they win, they raise it. But I would just, you're going to win one at 8 or 9 hands, and then you're even. And anytime you win 2 in a row, you're up. And so I was averaging like $600 an hour in my pajamas, and I did really good. But then they figured it out, and they shut that system down. It doesn't work. But it's hard to do in casinos because they always come reshuffle and mess it up. But his was count cards, which I don't. That's tough. I mean, you got to really be paying attention to everybody's cards. And some people are like act like it's poker and they don't want to show you their cards for some reason. So
what do you do? What do you do on a 16?
It depends on what the dealer has.
Dealer has a 10.
You hit it.
You got to.
Yeah, you got to.
What if you have a 6?
The dealer has a 6.
No, you have a 6. Dealer has a 10.
You hit it.
You got to.
Yeah, you got to.
You have a 6. Dealer has a 7.
You hit it.
You got to hit. Thank you. Yeah.
You always got to pretend they have a 10 under there.
Thank you.
And usually they do. So.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but I got some buddies that could really be listening to this that could gain a lot. Like, you got to hit that 13, David.
Yeah.
The dealer's showing a 10.
Yeah. I'm gonna sit. I'm like, and then sometimes
I'm gonna keep myself in the game.
Yeah, and sometimes it works. And like,
that's goddamn. That's
for
life
everybody.
Right. Yeah.
So
I like it when you sit down and you cause a table to lose, and they all get mad at you. Like, you're the new one that just joined. Oh god, you cut the deck, and then everyone loses.
Everybody acts like it's your fault.
It's like, guys, like, give me a break. Like,
yeah.
I want to get back to Race Madison Square Garden and making it a family trip. Because this was my brother, I think. He was, and I think he got it from my parents, my dad. But he, loved his family. He was, that was his thing. And, yeah, I just remember, because my older brother's going to Madison Square Garden to box. I felt so cool. Like, he's my hero. I'm like, you're what? And he's like, yeah. And I remember asking him, aren't you, scared? Are you aren't you terrified? And he's like, yeah, but he just talked about it's a trip for his family. He's like, it's a free trip with my family to New York. I get to fight in Madison Square Garden. And just the way he explained it to me was he already won because he got to have a moment with his family that he cherished forever. And they do cherish that one forever. Now looking back on it, like that's one of their big memories that they'll have with each other for a long, long time. But like, did you see like just training him and being friends with him? Any like comments you want to make about him being a husband or a father? Because I do think that was his number one focus all the time.
All the time. He was so awesome. Like him with Keisha, he never. Every guy comes in. Oh, my wife this, my wife that, and they always. I'm like they always vent to me about everything bad happens, and he, I could tell if things were bothering him, but he wouldn't ever say anything bad about Keisha. He was always just, he loved her. I think more than most people do by far. Like
Yeah, in the obituary when it talked about like how much he loved Keisha, like that's true. Like he loved her so much.
yeah, he would do anything for her, and he I don't know, he never said a bad word, and that everybody jokes about their wife or any, not him. He was awesome, and he loved his kids so much. He'd bring his kids to the gym sometimes and and mess around with them, have them fight them and stuff, and it was just he was really cool. And then one time it was a fight night. I think it might have been his birthday, and I didn't know where he lived or anything, but he gives us all his address, and we go to the gym, and I'm like looking for a trailer park. I didn't know what he lived in, and then I show up to his house, and it's this huge, beautiful house overlooking everything. I'm like, what? And he never said, oh, anything about how well he's doing or what he lives in, and we all show up to his house, and we show up. His kids are awesome. His beautiful wife, beautiful everything. And we all left, and I was so jealous of Keisha. I'm like, man, she gets to sleep with this guy. I'm like, geez. Like it was, I don't know. He was always so impressive, and he never bragged about anything, and he was just the coolest, and he was so kind to everyone, like everyone.
Yeah, I try. It sounds weird because he's such a tough wrestler, fighter, MMA guy. But I was trying to tell Ram this. Like he was also so nice. Like he was just as much a lover as he was a fighter. Like he just had a big heart like that. Um, when I talk about getting the phone call that I was told that they were dead. Well, I was told there was one survivor. And I think you can appreciate because when I heard one survivor, I thought of Race. Like, oh, like it's gonna be Race. I think you can appreciate this because, like, wouldn't that be where your mind went if you got
Yeah.
a phone call like Race is in the car that was involved in this? There's one survivor. Like, it'd be Race because this is who I grew up with, man. Like, my whole life was watching this tough as nails kid and then guy, and then I get that phone call and man, that really just I have so much shame and guilt with Race just because he was with my family, and I don't even know what I'm trying to say anymore, other than I think I'm sitting with someone that can really appreciate that moment with me. Like I really thought it was gonna be him, and then when it wasn't, it just felt awful ever since. And it's weird because like I think that's what Race would want. Like if the universe was like, "Hey, Race, like one person gets to live from the car, who's it gonna be?" Like he would volunteer Courtney or one of my kids. I'm pretty sure. Like I think that's what Race would actually do. Um, but yeah, Race is just my hero, and then him being in the car with my family and him dying, it's just really torn me up, man. But I just wanted to tell you that because I think you love and appreciate Race in a special way. Um, and I just wanted to say that, but it's been
Well,
hard for me.
I bet, man. I can't. That day, I think about that day all the time because he went to Bear Lake, I think, and he messaged me before and said, "Hey, dude, I'm coming. Nate, maybe I can hit you on the way over or the way back." And then on the way back, he calls me and he says, "Hey, I got a couple hours. Maybe we could meet up at the gym and do some sparring or something." And I was at my brother. My brother just got a house and stuff, so I'm like, "Dude, I can't," because I said I gotta. Uh, I was like, I gotta stay here with my brother. And he's like, oh, that's cool. Both just head home a little early. And I don't know. I just wish we sparred and maybe things would have been different. So
Yeah, I think, man, I had no idea about that.
yeah, it bothered me for a long time. I remember telling Keisha, and I felt so bad because I felt half responsible, and she was cool. Obviously, she's like, it's not your fault and everything else. But God, I wish we just hung out for a couple hours and because he was like, oh, okay, it's cool. Maybe I can get home a couple hours early and surprise Keisha. And because I don't know, I just wish that it was different.
You said it used to really bother you. What's helped you deal with that?
Nothing really. I think about it a lot. And I don't know, but
Yeah, I think about, man, I'm sorry, dude. You don't have to feel bad at all. I feel bad. And I'm like, yeah, like, I think so many people feel that way. I know my parents feel that way. I know my grandma, like my grandma that planned the family trip, feels like everyone just, I think everyone that's close to it feels responsible for it somehow, just because we all love them so much, maybe. And it's weird because everyone else I talk to, I'm like, I just want to give a hug. I'm like, that's ridiculous. You don't need to feel bad. But then when it comes to me, it's like, nah, like no sympathy all of a sudden. And I think we're all similar that way. Like you would tell me I don't need to feel bad, but what? Nothing helps you though.
yeah, I can't. I don't know.
When's the last time you talked about any of this stuff?
My girlfriend probably hears me talk about it a little bit too much. Probably.
Oh,
She I don't know. She's cool and she listens to me, and she knew Race too. Like her and Race, doing amateur fights at the same time, and they were really good friends. And he was just so cool. Like when I got divorced, and then and he was like my best friend, and he was and then I started dating her, and she was from the gym, and I was kind of worried, like, oh, everybody's, what everybody's gonna think, like everybody probably does, like, oh, they were doing it the whole time or whatever, and Race he didn't swear very much, but I remember he was like, well, fuck them, and he's like, fuck what people think. He's like, just live your life. He's like, don't, if you want to be with Marie, be with Marie, and and I was like, deal. And then he would come over. When he was in town, he would come hang out at our house, watch fights, and I don't know. He made me more comfortable, even in that regards, being with her, and he was so kind and not judgy or anything else. He was just awesome. So,
sorry to make you go there, man. I wasn't really planning on it, but I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that. Um, Anything else about Race before we get into top 3 favorite movies?
I don't know. There's a million little things. There's a million little things.
Share some with us.
I was just so impressed with his aura. He would just come in with confidence, but not dickhead confidence. You know what I mean? He just was, and he would spar 300-pound men and dance around them, and I remember one time me and him were sparring, and I've been doing this, forever, and and he would come in and we'd trade, and I would keep hitting him. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like, you would come in and hit me, but then you'd stop. I said, it's not your turn, my turn, your turn. I said, when you're done hitting me, step back. And then then it was like a light turned on. And then he started boxing. And then all of a sudden he started, instead of coming in and just see who was tougher, he would come in and then get off and then come and get off. And then then I was like, holy, then he started developing. He actually ended up being a pretty good boxer. His record doesn't show it, but it's only because he fought everybody. Like everybody were like really, really, really good guys that he had no business fighting, but he did. He did have business fighting because he had the balls to do it. And I just respected him as a man, as a husband, as a father, and like he made me want to be a better person. I try to be nice to everybody, but seeing how it just seemed to come so natural to him. It wasn't forced. He just was a nice guy, and it's weird to say I try to be more like him all the time, but I do. And like Keisha gave me this, um, like the funeral day, and I almost like I had it on for years. It never came off, and then it fell off one time. And I couldn't find it for a long time, and I was pissed. But it used to say, live wild. Now it's all wore off, but Keisha gave it to me, and I just couldn't take it off for the longest time, and I wear it most of the time, but I don't know. It just makes me think about him. It's always there, and I'm always thinking about him. So it's weird how it's hard to make friends in your 30s sometimes. You know what I mean? But man, I don't know. We just clicked so good, and I don't know. I just miss him. I could just go on forever about it, but
Yeah, I miss him so much. I wish I wish I sent him Marco Polos. Like I just like when they're gone, like there's just so much you wish, or at least I wish I did different. And like, yeah, just even kind of jealous of the relationship you had with him in his 30s because we all had our own families doing our own thing, and I just wish I would have talked to him more because he's so funny. He's such a good listener. He's all the things, and it's just like, man, like, why didn't I ask him for advice more? Like, why didn't I? I don't know. I just have a lot of regret with Race. Losing Courtney and my kids and Ryder is different. It's just because I just love my kids and wife so much. I was just always with them. I don't have a lot of regret in that area. But with Race, it's like, man, like, I don't know. I wish I could have been a better brother.
He thought you were a stud. He was always like, oh, if you meet my brother, you're gonna like him better because of the basketball thing. And he was trying to keep us apart. But he thought you were awesome, and I think you're the whole reason he wanted to move to St. George in that first place, and so I don't know. He loved you a lot.
Dude, we used to. I thought it was so cool, but he'd wake me up in the middle of the night. And he's like, "Let's play action figures," and we'd play action figures in my bedroom. But it was like a movie script. He's like, "All right, you're Spider-Man, this guy, and here comes this guy like swooping down." And it was like he made me feel. I don't know. I just cherish those moments so much with Race, and like we'd have these Nerf gun fights, and he'd always trick me with like these weird, like he would take his shoe off and put it just barely out of the door frame, so like I thought it was him, and I'd run up and shoot him, then he'd pop out behind another door and just light me up, and just like he was so fun, man. And it's weird because when I think of memories of Race, it just brings me back to my childhood. Like I'm brought back to my childhood a lot with Race. And I think it's because that's where I spent most of my time with him versus adulthood. But like, I don't know, I've grieving Race. I've just been in my childhood a lot because of that, I think. And that's been weird for me. But
when I hung around, he made me feel, like a kid. Like the way we would talk and play around. I don't know. It felt like we were friends our whole lives.
yeah.
And I don't know. He was always comfortable with him, but I don't know, he's the kind of guy that probably a million people say, "Oh, we're best friends" or whatever, because he made everybody feel like that. So
he was awesome. Like that. Yeah, I could do Race stories all day. He was a movie guy. He took me to A Knight's Tale. Remember that one with what's his name? Heath Ledger. That's right. Because my parents went out of town, and he's like, "Mace, let's go to this movie." And I just thought I was so cool going with Race to this movie and watch A Knight's Tale. But we'd watch a lot of movies together. He got me on to Fight Club. he
awesome.
like indoctrinated me into that movie. He's like, you gotta watch Fight Club. And so like Fight Club's always been one of my favorites. Gladiator, he got me on too. But yeah,
Peaky Blinders, he loved.
Yeah, I got a Peaky Blinders tattoo of him with. So one of his wrestling names, his fake WWF wrestling names growing up was Deuces Wild. So I got a Peaky Blinders tattoo with a Deuces Wild.
That's
awesome. And he's playing blackjack.
That's way cool.
Pretty cool, huh? For Race. But yeah, Peaky Blinders. Anyway, you want to give us top 3 favorite movies?
Yeah, I was just sitting there last night thinking about it because you were like, oh, top 3, and Bloodsport with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Have you ever seen that?
Dude, yeah, that's old school.
Dude, that practically raised
Claude Van Damme, dude.
I just loved that. You know, that was one of my favorite growing up. And
yeah, that
then,
was a good kung fu's the right word, but yeah, good.
Yeah, just martial arts. It was fun. That's practically raised me as a kid. And then I really like A Time to Kill with Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, that one was tough to watch as a kid, but then after having girls and stuff, you can't watch it without crying.
Yeah, brutal.
It's rough. That one my all-time favorites. And my weirdest one, my mom made me watch as a kid, and I was all pissed. But it was like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers is my all-time favorite movie. It's such a random, like, what the? Everybody thinks I'm gay after that, but it's so
well, you've had a few gay comments. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you've had some comments on here, so yeah.
Yeah,
but very race-like. Race is very much the same way. So. I have never seen Seven Brides for Seven Brides. I've never seen.
It's like 1954. You should. It's a musical.
It's such a Race answer because Race's favorite song was like "Let's Go Fly a Kite." Like,
yeah,
but it like legit was like he wasn't making it up, but he was just. What were some of the songs Race would use to walk out to on his fights? Do you remember? Because I remember he asked me like, "What song should I walk out to?" And I gave him some, and he didn't use any of them. I think it was like a 21 Pilots song. One time, maybe.
Yeah, he came out to some gay one time.
That's why I asked. Like, did he ever do something weird?
Well, weigh-ins one time. You know, it's always serious. Like, it's like a dick weighing contest. Everybody tries to be tough, and one of his first MMA fights, he just wore these little panties and it said "Bam" on his butt, and everybody's like, "What is wrong with this guy?" And he's just doing it to be funny, but to other people, he looked.
Dude, he'd wear a Speedo to our family cruise.
Oh wow!
And like would purposely not shave before, and yeah, he was bizarre. He was totally bizarre, just wearing a Speedo the whole week.
Yeah, he was a stud. And like one of my favorite stories about Race is one of my last fights where I had to cut a bunch of weight, and Race was a wrestler and he was good at cutting weight.
Yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, cut weight with me," and I had to cut probably 10, 11 pounds, and we're in the sauna forever, and he had like a half hour in the sauna, then a half hour in the hot tub, and a half hour in the sauna, and no water, no nothing. I'm so tired, and he's doing it with me the whole time, and I'm like, man, this guy's like, I'm looking at him like, we're hoping he breaks, and I never saw him break, and then I'm cutting all the way, and I'm like, how did you do that? And he's like, oh, I was sneaking water the whole time. I was like, you bastard. By him doing that, though, made it
psych you up.
Yeah, like, I was like, oh, if he can do it, I can do it. And I don't know. I thought that was really nice of him, to do it like that. Because if I saw him drinking water, I would have hit him probably. He was doing it. I thought it was really cool. So,
yeah, one time we were singing Christmas songs. So bad. Race was singing Christmas songs in a road trip. So bad that my dad offered him $5 to stop singing, and I think he kept singing till my dad offered him like $10 or something. But like Race, that's just who he was, man. He was a weird one. We love you, Race. Happy birthday, Tim. Thank you so much, man.
So fun.
One of my favorite things is hearing stories about him. So I know you're busy, so thanks for coming over and
that's awesome.
Taking the time. And life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it.